Hey everyone, welcome back to anatomy. In this video, we're going to focus on muscles of the thigh. So to make sure we're all on the same page, this model right here is of a lower extremity. So this whole thing is one lower extremity. Maybe outside of anatomy class, you might refer to this whole thing as your leg, but in anatomy, leg is very something specific. So the leg is just this portion right here between the ankle and the knee. And the thigh, which is what we're going to focus on for this video, is just this portion right here between the hip and the knee. So again, this whole thing is a lower extremity. This is the thigh, and we're going to focus right here for today's video. Okay, so let me rotate this anteriorly, and we'll start talking about these muscles. So the first group we're going to look at are the quadriceps. So as the name would imply, there are 4 muscles that make up this group. This first one is the rectus femoris. And this one is the only quadricep that you have that has 2 actions. So this one helps with hip flexion and knee extension. And that makes sense because where it originates and where it inserts. If I take the rectus femoris off, deep to it, we have the vastus intermedius. Okay, let me rotate this. So now we're looking at a lateral view, right? Again, so pinky toe side to help orient yourself. This muscle right here is vastus lateralis, and it's so big you can see it on both sides of this iliotibial tract, and that's how I have to remember to find this muscle. Like, it's so vast you can see it on both sides. So this again is the iliotibial tract. This is a really easy identifier when you're on the cadaver or on other models. You can actually pick it up with your hand and put your finger right on top of the vastus lateralis when you're trying to find these muscles in the cadaver. So let's head over to the last of our quadriceps, and that's this one right here. This is the vastus medius, and this is the vastus medialis. This is the most medial of all of your quadriceps. And together these 4 form the quadriceps tendon. So let's head this way. Hanging out in this area is the sartorius, and this muscle looks like a sash to me. So I always try to remember, like, your thigh won quadricep of the year, so here's like a little beauty sash that it won. So it runs at this diagonal, which gives you a clue that it has a lot of actions. So especially to do with rotation. So the first action that you need to know for this one is that it's going to help with hip flexion. It's going to help to laterally rotate the hip as well. It'll also help flex the knee and medially rotate the knee. So be careful when you're studying for this one. It's a toughie. If I keep rotating it, so we're looking at a medial aspect now of the thigh. Some other muscles that hang out here are the adductor longus, gracilis, and adductor magnus. And they're always found in this order. So adductor longus, gracilis, and adductor magnus. Gracilis is going to be the most superficial of these muscles. One of the things that helps me tell adductor longus apart from adductor magnus is, like the name implies, adductor magnus is going to be the largest of your adductors. So we find it both posteriorly and anteriorly. Another structure to point out here, if I can remove this sartorius real quick, is that the adductor hiatus belongs to the adductor magnus. So the hiatus is like a pause, like when your favorite TV show goes on hiatus and they stop making new episodes. So look for a pause in the muscle of adductor magnus, and when you're in lab, there's a couple of structures that'll pass through that hiatus. So a couple of blood vessels and a nerve, and that's how I try to orient myself between adductor magnus and adductor longus. Okay, so let's put this sartorius back, and we'll keep rotating. So let's look at these hamstring muscles. Okay, so just to help orient us, this is the lateral side, and this is the medial side. So your hamstrings are made up of 3 muscles that you need to know. This big one right here in the lateral or pinky toe side, this is the biceps femoris. So like its name tells you, it's got 2 heads, and it's found here by the femur. The other hamstring muscles, these ones are a little harder to differentiate. So this one, the most superficial, is semitendinosus. It's got a much, much longer tendon. The one underneath it, on both sides, this is semimembranosus. So I always try to remember that semitendinosus is on top, and semimembranosus is actually the most medial. So it's a lot wider, a lot flatter, and tendinosus sits on top. Looking at their tendons helps me differentiate them even farther when we get into the cadaver. So those are the muscles of the thighs. Thanks for working hard in this class, and we'll see you again soon.